And I hope you understand, I'm not talking about being a bully. I'm not talking about going out and using violence to intimidate people. I'm talking about having some men on the other side who are just as violently capable so they can stop them. Daniel Penny, this is the man on the subway. We'll refresh your memory here. In New York, and this is what I want you to remember. Again, now you have systems that exist that don't protect their people. And then if good people decide to protect their fellow neighbor, they get railroaded by said system. Yeah. Before we get into any of this and this prosecutor, this man on the subway who was screaming, this man who was violent, who was belligerent, you do have to ask yourself, you think this was the first time? I think this was the first time that man went onto the subway and intimidated women and children and harassed people and violated their fellow Americans' fundamental rights? Or do you think this person was doing it day in and day out until they ran into Daniel Penny? Let's keep that in mind, because you do have a choice. You have a choice of someone like Daniel Penny stepping up, as flawed as his technique may be, or living in a city where people act this way without consequences. Yeah. That's why you're seeing even the mayor, Eric Adams, starting to change a little bit. A little bit, yeah. A little bit. So right now, there are deliberations, still taking place in this trial, and the jury has not reached a verdict.
Jurors spent a second day deliberating the fate of Daniel Penny, the Marine veteran is charged in the chokehold death of Jordan Neely on the subway last year. Jurors sent 2 notes today, one asking for cell phone video of the incident, police body camera video, and Penny's police station interview. The second note asked for certain testimony from the medical examiner who performed Neely's autopsy. They wanted that to be read back. Penny has pleaded not guilty to second-degree manslaughter and criminally negligent homicide.
Okay.
Just keep in mind, by the way, the picture that they showed of the guy that Penny was restraining. I can't remember his name. Neely, thank you. Yeah. So the picture of Neely, just remember that, because Eric Adams addresses that picture right there.
Yeah.
That's a nice guy that you're sitting next to on the subway. Yeah. He's not going to be a problem, right? Yeah. Now, please show me the cracked out of his mind picture that Daniel Penny had to see probably on multiple occasions, I would imagine.
Put up one of his 14 mugshots last year.
This is what they do. They try to make it out to be this sympathetic figure, like, oh, come on, that's a normal average Joe that just got, taken down. Come on.
It's so predictable. I was on Russia Today a long time ago when Trayvon Martin was going on. Yeah. I was talking into basically a webcam. And I remember saying, and as we're discussing this, I bet that you'll probably run the picture of Trayvon back when he was in grade school and not the most recent. And I couldn't see it. They were running that picture while I was speaking. This is back in 2009, I think. Yeah. There's nothing new here. And of course, this prosecutor is someone who, of course, forces identity politics down your throat. You'll see how inconsistent it's been, and you'll understand why New York is in the state that it's in. For those of you who have missed this, let me refresh your memory. This is the video of Penny subduing this drugged out nuisance right here. Let's watch it, and I'll just talk over it a little bit. Keep playing it.
Where are the cops?
And you can see people there. One thing that always sticks out to me is no one else is scared. No one else is scared at this point of Penny. That does matter. That does matter. If everyone on the subway is scared or feels harassed or is annoyed, but they're actually scared of Jordan Neely and not one is scared of Penny, hey, that should tell you something. Oh, people are assisting Penny.
Yeah.
That should tell you something.
They're not saying let him up.
No, they're not. But this is the prosecutor involved with this. The assistant district attorney, Daphne Yoren. Okay? This person is, of course,
Scissor me timbers.
A part of Alvin Bragg's office, has donated exclusively to Democrats, including Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, the Future Now Fund PAC, which is actually specifically designed to flip red states blue, and she specifically donated to flip Texas blue, which is odd.
Bad investment.
Considering... I was really hoping for Beto.
He can kick flip in.
And in case you didn't know enough, I mean, I'm sure, you look at the picture and obviously the lesbian bulb goes off in your head. But married to a Peruvian artist who makes art like this. I asked for my production team on a hunch. I said, oh, wait, this lesbian is married to a Peruvian woman who is an artist. Can you please find me some of that? Oh, it's exactly what I thought it was.
Yeah, it's worse than I think we could have imagined.
Shocker. And people want to act like these folks can be impartial. It's not
possible.
No,
they can't. And you think I'm joking right now. nobody gay should be a judge. Case fucking closed.
All right.
I'd take it further racially, but I know I'll get in trouble. I'm dead serious. They can't be fucking impartial. Sorry.
No, it's true.
I'm basing it on hundreds of years now.
Yeah.
That woman is angry at the world because
Yes.
she looks like Mr. fucking Ed. And she takes it out
on her lesbian bride, because they do beat each other quite often.
No, she fucking hates. She's
lesbians, not them.
They don't fit into the mainstream of this country. She's bitter and hateful.
Yeah, no, I
and
think you're right.
she's smart enough to get a law degree, and here we are.
Yeah.
And she could not be impartial to save her fucking life.
No, she couldn't. Well, that brings us to
the uglier, the more angry. By the way,
we have a pretty good contrast here, because let's go with now how this this prosecutor is handling the Penny case, and then we'll go to then, because I know what you're going to think initially. Yeah. Oh, so this is just a carpet muncher who's tough on crime. No, it's not consistent.
And carpet.
So is it urine or urine? Does it matter? I don't care.
Call it urine. You know,
urine.
Feces, urine.
So urine has already pulled the race card in this case. Even though, of course, Penny not charged with a hate crime. This wasn't really introduced here until this person did it.
Right.
Because, the real crime that Penny committed in this case is referred to the drugged out nuisance, the crackhead,
Seriously?
as a crackhead. And so this prosecutor said that this is a racially charged term. Using the term, let's roll the clip of Penny referring to Neely as, it's basically a synonym for N-word, crackhead.
He got on diagonally from me, so he came in, but I was on my phone, listening to music. I wasn't paying attention. He's just a crackhead, you know what I mean? So.
He seemed like he was on something. He
yeah,
was
absolutely.
Intoxicated and high.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, he was moonwalking.
That K2 that they're smoking, pushing people in front. These people are going crazy. So.
And look, I get people are going to say, well, you say crackhead, you're usually referring to a black person. Well, be that as it may, when you say meth head, you're referring to white trash. It's just you look at the usage of drug. Black people use more crack. White people use meth. The effect's the same. And fentanyl is the great uniter, because that just bridges the racial divide.
It is. It really is.
Together.
It's the MLK of drugs.
Yes. For some reason, people are racially picky when it comes to their uppers. When it comes to the painkillers, it's like, all right, just bring it over here. Black, white, doesn't matter. It's all precious.
We are the world.
I had a dream and a pipe.
Yes.
That fentanyl would unite us.
Yes. So, by the way, he also has a basis for that, not only because the man very likely yelled, I'm a crackhead, but during his testimony, NYPD Sergeant Carl Johnson said that his team didn't do CPR on Neely specifically because, quote, he seemed to be a drug user. He was an apparent drug user. He was very dirty. I didn't want them to get hepatitis.
So they didn't perform CPR on this guy?
Okay, so they're the ones.
Yeah.
If anybody should be in trouble.
Yes.
They walked into the subway and went, ew.
Oh, he's probably got chicken between his teeth.
You do it. I
don't want to. No, I'm not doing that.
I'm not doing that.
That sounds racially
I didn't
motivated.
bring one of those face masks.
So, yeah.
And by the way, this attorney also allowed witnesses, which you're not supposed to allowed them to describe Penny as the white man, a murderer. They want to paint all of this with the brush of race.
Race, come on.
Now, if this was just an angry lesbian who was tough on crime, that would be one thing. But this brings us back to then. Yoren has reduced murder charges consistently. Yeah. So in one case, we have this with a black man. In 2019, she reduced charges for a black man who murdered an elderly Asian man in the middle of a robbery. And it was, I believe, just $300, wasting a guy for nothing. And she actually reduced the charges of this murderer in the name of restorative justice.
The more I learned about the defendant and his life and the circumstances, the kinds of things that Jarrell was talking about, that one should take into account the trauma of that individual, I really felt incredibly sorry for him that he had gotten to that point in his life where he felt like there was no other choice but to commit this robbery.
Had no choice but to commit this robbery?
Here's the thing, too. And you may say that I'm racist here, okay? There's nothing in your background or upbringing that would change my opinion of your slaughtering of an old Asian man for $300. Don't care. Your dad didn't hug you enough? Doesn't matter. Oh, you had a rough go. Your wife left you. Sorry. Someone touched you in the park? That sucks. You killed someone for no reason. That's it. That's it. And by the way, when we're talking about, I feel really bad because of his upbringing, and they try and play this too with this Penny case. Hey, I don't know if you know this. But when we're talking about Penny, right, military.
Yeah.
I don't know if it probably didn't come from an upper class family. Probably needed to make a go of it, go into the military, maybe pay for school. We don't know his story, but why do we only feel bad for one person who, let's assume that they both had difficult upbringings. One decided to serve his country, and one decided to only harm his fellow civilians by rampaging through the subways on crack. Why do we only feel bad for the one who made the bad decisions? Shouldn't we actually maybe reserve our empathy for the people who make a better situation of their life? Isn't that what we want other people to model? Not in New York City. So this man who murdered an elderly Asian man, you have the references available. Go check them out so you know I'm not lying to you. The sentence went from 25 to life down to 10 years. The guy will be eligible for parole in 2026.
Jeez. Ooh. That's like a year.
Contrast that with Penny right now, who's facing a 15-year sentence.
She looks at any guy, any white male. She sees white male patriarchy.
Yeah.
That's all she sees. I don't give a shit what age the guy is.
Yeah.
I don't understand the charges. I mean, listen, I get that there's frustration. Okay, maybe the chokehold, or it wasn't even really. It looks like a blood choke, right? He wasn't like choking.
Right.
He doesn't know how to apply a chokehold.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe it was applied improperly or something like that. But do you think that these charges should have been brought?
No, nothing. I think it should be
only in this world, especially New York City.
Yeah. And you know what? Actually, this is where we are. We're getting to this point where even New York City Mayor, Eric Adams, he's getting pretty tired of this, losing his patience.
I'm too old for this.
No, what's the right clip? But we actually do have a clip.
I think that was the guy Penny was choking.
Do we have a clip of Adams? Yeah, Adams talking about this.
When you looked at the photo that was being used, it wanted to set up in the minds of people that we were dealing with a young innocent child
before crack.
That just a Michael Jackson intimidator. That
intimidator.
Just brutally
Freudian slip.
The complete failure of our mental health system. Right. A complete failure. We're on the subway where we're hearing someone talking about hurting people, killing people. You have someone on that subway who was responding, doing what we should have done as a city and a state of having a mental health facility. Those passengers were afraid. I'm hoping that the jury will hear all the facts. Based on all the facts that's laid out, a jury of his peers will make the right decision.
I'm glad to hear him say that, but are we at the point too little, too late? I mean, he's a mayor, right? This is a guy.
I think so. I mean, I'm very appreciative that he's speaking up now, but what is it going to do? You could have spoken up a lot earlier. Now, look, and I understand, maybe people are uncomfortable with this, and I'll make this claim, and I'll stand behind this. Like, you don't think that the mayor could have made a phone call?
Yeah.
I've been like, hey, guys, listen, let's talk about this. Put some pressure on people. Not tell them what to do. I'm not going to tell you how to do your job and who to prosecute and what charges to bring. Come on, guys, let's think about this, you know, a little bit. I know that kind of stuff happens all the time, and even if he didn't do something like that, speaking out earlier on in this situation could have had an impact on public perception of what was going on.
Course.
Instead of letting the media run with this as a white guy killing a black man on a subway who was just impersonating Michael Jackson. Apparently he didn't like the crotch grab or something like that, right? Not a fan of the moonwalk. Get it? That's what they were doing, right? They were making this thing out to be something that it wasn't. And now at the 11th hour, literally at the 11th hour, he comes out and says something like this.
Yeah.
Like, look, great. Thanks for coming to the party, but you're freaking late, man.
Yeah.
Well, he's covering his own ass is what he's doing.
That's what
but again, modern day progressive. I don't care if it's a judge, a mayor of a city, racial and sexual. They can't be impartial. I don't give a fuck what anybody says.
No,
he could not be impartial.
Yeah.
Maybe back in the day, Thomas Sowell, somebody.
Yeah.
But from what I've witnessed the last 40 years, the OJ case, and they can't be. And who's they, Nick? You know who the fuck I'm talking about.
Well, here's the thing, though. When we're talking also too about progressive
lesbians,
progressive lesbians here, progressive leftists, like the problem that we do have in this country is it is overall a feminization of the institution.
Amen.
And I don't mean women bad, man good. What I do mean to say, though, here is, hey, New Yorkers are saying, you know what? We have the God-given right to self-preservation. We have the God-given right to our own personal space, not being invaded, certainly not violently, and we think that we should be able to protect ourselves. And certainly, we want to support people who are in the moral right, defending against people who are in the moral wrong. But the feminist equivalent of this, and that's why I say feminization, is in high school, the zero tolerance policy.
Yeah.
That's what I had growing up. Right? Because you had a bunch of female principals and vice principals saying, we don't tolerate any violence. I watched kids at my school get beaten on and shove the guy off them before they go back to turtling, and both of them got the same suspension. Yeah. Both of them were suspended because it's a zero. That is actually perverse when you think we are teaching children that all violence is morally equivalent. And that's not a good lesson to teach children. Hey, is a rape the same as shooting a rapist? One is an awful crime. One should be celebrated as a win. And when we just teach kids violence across the board is bad because it's toxic masculinity, guess what? The criminals don't care. You know what happened in my school? The bullies, they don't have a dad at home anyway. They're fine having an after-school detention. They don't care. They can get away with it. The kids who actually care about their permanent record, the kids who care about going to a good college, the kids who actually care about their reputation, actually care about being good students, they're so afraid that they won't even stand up for themselves. So you've enabled a culture of bullying. That's why you get the crime rates you get in New York. That's why you get Detroit, wealthiest city in the country in the 1950s, and now the worst city possibly on earth. That's what you end up with. It's a feminizing of culture where you will lose good men to stand in that pocket and fight for you, because we used to celebrate those men throughout all of human history. And I hope you understand, I'm not talking about being a bully. I'm not talking about going out and using violence to intimidate people. I'm talking about having some men on the other side who are just as violently capable so they can stop them. Right. You're breeding them out of existence, and then you're socializing them out of existence right now. It's a real problem. And I think that's a big part of what was rejected in this last election, just not in the microcosm that is New York City.
Yeah, but and it's so obvious, too, in New York on the subway. Like, why do you think they target the subway? Yeah. Nobody will do anything. That's one of the most populated places, like, so many people in such a small space, and nobody's going to do anything. Yeah. You've bred a culture, basically, where you've shunned the Good Samaritans. Like, you need to have laws that protect Good Samaritans and that punish vigilantism, okay? You can have that kind of divide made. You want people to stand up. When I was in New York for the Varma story, I was only there for 24 hours. A guy asked me for a bottle of water. And I was like, oh, man, I'm sorry. I'm walking over to try to do like a hit, right? And do something. And he goes, well, how about some change? I'm like, I don't carry any cash. And I was being very nice to him. And he was a giant black guy with, dreads. And I was like, okay. He had like a blanket on. He looked kind of like he was sleeping there. And I was just like, nah, I'm sorry, man. And I kept walking. He's like, well, F you, man. And not one person even batted an eye. Yeah. It's just a Tuesday, Like it's just normal. Yep. And how about this? If you're a lady walking down the street and a guy like that or any other guy tries to rape you, tries to do something to you on a subway, wouldn't you like every single guy within eyesight line and earshot to come to your aid? Yeah. To make sure that you're taken care of and safe? Not to come and kill somebody because they're black, but to come and take care of you and make sure that you don't get raped on a subway or molested.
That's the only way you stop rape culture.
It's exactly.
Women, how do you think you effectively stop rape culture? Why do you think?
A whistle.
Yeah, exactly, a whistle. Unfortunately, they sell rape whistles that only call more rapists.
That's
so don't
true.
buy that one.
Run
you
to
put
the
that
area.
in your cart, you're in for a rude awakening. But you need men who will stop it. That's why we haven't had a rape culture, for example, in the West, the way that they do in Middle Eastern countries.
Right.
Leathernecks, that term exists because the United States created a branch of military to deal with Islamic pirates who were decapitating them. And of course, part of their spoils were raping your women. You need men to stop. I'm going to say one thing here that's going to rub people the wrong way.
Ooh,
but this is a fact.
Sounds great.
Women's rights are an illusion. Do you understand that? These rights exist because of the blood spilled of good men. Do you understand that at the end of the day, you take away technology, you take away this comfortable life that you live right now. And by the way, you only need to go back a few decades. Throughout the span of human history, this is really a pretty new situation we find ourselves in. It's the people who can most effectively destroy the other side who protect your rights. If you cannot enforce your rights at a certain point through violence, guess what? They're an illusion. Women, the rights that we have in this country, in other words, why do you think you're allowed to drive in the United States and not in Saudi Arabia or whichever country? I don't know if they allow women to drive or get a learner's permit now. I don't care. You understand the point. Why do you think it is that if you're raped here in this country, we actually have rape kits? We actually have a justice system that will prosecute men. And they don't have that unless you have the proper amount of witnesses in a Middle Eastern country. Or, for example, all across Africa. Why do you think we don't allow domestic battery here in the United States and not in another country. And I know for all the edgy atheists out there, if I need a God to tell me not to beat a woman, then I just must be a bad person. Okay, so then how do you explain the billions of people who are okay with it? The reason that those laws exist, they're created by men in this country before those rights ever existed for women, because they wanted to protect you and create a better country, because men love their women here in the United States. But it's an illusion. Make no mistake. If you don't have men here, men who can protect your rights through violence, guess what? The other violent men out there, not women, will come and take them away from you. Your rights here in this country, as a woman, it's an illusion protected by men. And so when you create a society where you condemn the kind of men that you precisely need to protect those rights, you want more Pennies out there. You want more Kyle Rittenhouses out there. You know who you want? The kind of people who joined the military for decades until we turned it into a woke petri dish for lesbians and transgender, whatever the hell it is, the two mommies, whatever the ad is. You think those people are going to be the ones to ensure your rights when Islamic pirates come knocking? Do you have any idea? Have you looked at the Mediterranean coast? We've talked about this. Slavery off. You know that there were over 1 million people, right? White people likely, who were kidnapped, taken during the North African slave trade, right? That's why they have those cities built up with stone walls and castles to protect from marauders. Those rights were protected by physical barriers erected by violent men. Women's rights, and you can extend it to any rights, transgender rights, gay rights, LGBTQ rights, insert whatever category you want today, here. It's all an illusion protected by, God willing, violent enough men who are willing to do the right thing. Violence is not the same across the board. We need to do away with this idea that all violence is equivalent. We're teaching kids that. It's a problem. I don't subscribe to it. I don't believe it. And I think it's pervasively corrosive to our culture. And New York has decided to go along with it. This is a railroading. It's a politically motivated case right now. You could argue racially motivated case, a politically motivated prosecutor, and someone like Daniel Penny, obviously out there, needs your prayers. Please let him know. I'm sure he probably checks some content out every now and then, or any way you can get in touch with him. But say a prayer with your family. You know what? Say a prayer for the city of New York and say a prayer for the state of this country, because my God, we need some more violent, good men out there. That's really what we need in this country. Anyone disagree? Fine. Comment below. You're misinterpreting what I'm saying.
Well, the silver lining is the jury is asking for the right things.
Right.
Yeah. They're asking for the footage of the choking, the commentary, the autopsy, what killed him. Mm-hmm. So that's at least some hope.
I'd like to know the racial makeup of the jury.
Yeah.
I'd like to know the sexual orientation of the jury. I'm dead serious.
Yep.
In these days, like I said, a few years ago, maybe not so much, but now it's so polarized, and you can't. I don't care how careful you are picking a jury.
Right.
They can always hide that.
I had a conversation with someone who claimed to be, conservative Christian, and they said, I don't want a gun in my house. I just don't think I could ever kill anybody. I said, you probably, good for you. you think that probably sounds really nice, right? Yeah, because you know that I've said that I could kill without a second thought, right? Yeah, so I'm a bad person here. Hey, what if someone's raping your wife when you come home? Or what if you're home without your gun and someone decides that they're going to enter your house and your wife is now their sex slave? Are you more moral than me because you can't bring yourself to pull the trigger? I think you're a bad person. You know how we stop sex trafficking? Violence, at the end of the day. Do you know how we ensure that you still have the right to vote? Violence. Do you know how we ensure that we don't become Saudi Arabia or Iran or Egypt or Mozambique, Darfur? Violence. You understand that. Doesn't mean you're always acting violently, but we constantly live under the perpetual threat of violence because there are always people in this world who will commit violence against the innocent. The only thing that keeps them at bay is having men who will commit the same violence to protect the innocent. And we're doing away with them, and we're doing away with a culture that venerates them and that edifies them. You're not going to like the way this one ends out. Just like I told you guys this back in 2012. The same-sex marriage thing, you think it's just about who you love and it sounds nice. You're saying that there's no such thing as a mom and a dad. There's nothing intrinsically valuable that a dad brings to the table that a mom doesn't. 2 dads can do it or 2 moms can do it. You're not going to like the way this ends up. We're going to go down that slope where men and women cease to be a thing. Here we are. I'm telling you this right now. This culture does not course correct. You are going to be a culture that cannot defend itself. And guess what? Either way, at some point, violence is coming. Violence is going to happen. So you can try and get on your moral high horse all you want. Do you want that violence to come in the form of protecting the innocent or enslaving them? And which side do you think you'll be on? Hey, if you're still watching, you can comment below or click this video playing in a box. Shut up.
I just need
Shut up. You can tune in live weekdays, 10 a.m. Eastern, because that's the full show. Which you can say, shut!
I didn't say anything.
I know you didn't say anything. I could feel it. Click like.